Welcome back to the Justin Thurber Show. As always, my co-host Jim Davidson joins me, and tonight we have a special guest, State Committee Woman Maria Collins. I wish it was like a clap or applause. Maybe there is.
You
Thank
need a UFC announcer. And new state
you.
committee woman,
Here
Maria
we go.
Collins.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and welcome to the show. I really appreciate you taking the opportunity, the time to come to the show, and for people to get to know you. And how about we start off with that? How about you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got involved in politics?
Okay. Of course, my name's Maria Collins. I've been in Taunton about 25 years now. I have 8 children. My first interest in politics was honestly when Sean O'Connell. I was frustrated with the politics in Taunton, and as a Republican, we had a state rep that was pretty liberal, and somebody that I knew on the North Shore where I grew up said, "Don't worry, we got a candidate coming down." So that's how I started to get involved in working on campaigns. Then my interest became in running for school committee myself because I had kids in the system. And there was a lot of crazy stuff, but even back then. So I ran then, and then I took a break from it. Kids going through school, and I'm an advocate. I, you know, get involved, PTA, everything. So I was very involved with everything. So then I decided, I had somebody approach me and said, "Why don't you run for state committee woman?" I said, "What's state committee?" And that's when I learned. I knew about it, but I didn't know how important it was, right? So in 2020, I decided to run for state committee. And I did very well. And that's when I realized how divided our party is. I didn't get a lot of help. I got some outside help from some great people, but not my local people, like my local politicians. So I got 48% of the vote on that. Again, I did another run for school committee in 2021. And then I got an email from somebody that's on state committee and asked me if I would like to caucus in because Kim Palmer had decided to move out of state and there was a vacant seat. So we were going to run that caucus. That got put on hold, and I decided to run for state senate against Mark Pacheco. So I've been heavily involved for 15 plus years, really, focused on our party, seen a lot of the stuff that's gone on, seen a lot of good candidates get overlooked and not helped when we really could have pushed them through. I mean, we could have won a lot of seats. So when I started to see what was going on and all these Republicans were not winning, and it was interesting to me. So when I found out what was going on and the boycotting of candidates and the money being stolen and just all that stuff, because when Jim Lyons became the chairman, I got involved because the ones before, they were spending the money like crazy. Jim came in on the conservative and wanted to get rid of the problems. And I think that's what started a war between that. So I'm against corruption. I don't care, what party you are. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, we can't have it in our party. We can't have corruption in any part of that. And I think that at this point, winning this caucus for me is huge because it gave the conservative people a voice back. Because so many times when you're on and I know you know this, Justin, because you campaigned,
Yep.
people were done with both parties.
Oh yeah.
And we, as Republicans, had to face that the problem was with us too. And we had to identify the problem, right?
Correct. Yep.
So, and some people don't want to hear that. They don't. And the truth has to come out about our party. And I think that going forward, my goal for the state committee is to get like-minded people, the the silenced ones that didn't have a voice. This is what was huge for me. This is why I ran, because the people that showed up for me for the caucus were the voices that weren't being allowed to be heard
So
and were silenced.
so let's
You
talk
know,
about this. Let's talk about this caucus. I have
oh
the
yeah,
picture up of the pamphlet you had. That it was on Monday, March 27th. The doors
yeah,
opened at 6 p.m. Um, there was actually a flyer that went around with a bunch of support from some political candidates backing your opponent. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting thing. So, um, when we first were going to run the caucus the first time, it was supposed to be me against Kelly Dooner, which is on our city council. And then, like I said, the caucus didn't happen, and then they found somebody else, Susan Gifford. So I got a letter. I'm not sure if she knew I was the candidate or not. You know how they just do mass mailings.
Yep.
You know, and there was a lot of surprising endorsements on that list. I'm sure you have it up. Did you say?
I have the pamphlet up for your to save the date to go vote
yeah.
for you.
It made me realize some of the people that were on that list were part of the problem within our party, and you know, promised to help you, but you never saw them. And they never reached out to you. You know, meanwhile, you're helping these candidates, you're going to their events, you're donating money, and then you're like, oh. So yeah, that was a little bit of a shocker to me, to be honest.
I think Aaron described it 2022 in the last time that we met. He described it as like the Band-Aid was ripped off the Mass GOP in 2022, because when you look at the party in 2020, it was still a lot of blurred lines in terms of like everyone was kind of working, you know, no one really kind of understood, I think, what the big problems were within the party. It was like the lines were really blurred. And then 2022 was the year that all that got ripped off. And obviously he had his own issues with, you know, the Baker PACs donating money to his Democrat opponent. And it's just funny too, because you actually, you know, you look at this year, and I think it's become very clear pretty much, you know, which side is operating in good faith, and like you said, which side has
absolutely
has the corruption. And what I think is remarkable about you know, is great about this caucus is like this. Your caucus was like the turning point for all of this. So this is kind of the first election after the sides had become clear of like, okay, there's a clear divide between the grassroots and the establishment, and then this was the first caucus that was there that was kind of like, you know, that showed that divide. But
yes,
you know, it was
and
like
opened the door for us actually.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like the shot heard around the world, you know? And it was
And
like after you won, it was like everyone was calling each other. They're like, Maria won, Maria did it. Everyone was like on cloud nine.
Hey,
it was just like, you
really
proved
quick,
that anyone can do it.
Let me see if I can't get that video up. It was giving me some fits before. Let me see if I can't get it up for everybody. Hold on. I gotta do this. Again, I don't know if the volume. And there you are, winning right there. Clapping away.
Not only did you win, but that was a landslide. The final vote count was like a 2-to-1 margin in favor of your campaign in your candidacy. So that was just, not only did you win, but you sent a statement.
And the people that supported me sent that statement, you know, and the fact that Mark Swan, Paula Deegan, they just worked so hard, and it was an important win for them also, and the people that showed up that helped me. They actually showed up, because oftentimes, you know, people don't show up to these kind of things. They're like, oh, I could be bothered. And these people really, they made that effort. They put things aside and they showed up, because this is their voice. This, you know, this is us working together, and we all won together. Yeah. And I just wanted to comment on the, when you said about the Baker money and the Baker Pact. So when I ran in 2020, he funded against me, mailers, and, you know, he spent a lot of money. So that's when I knew I wasn't in the club.
Yeah.
And that I was going to be doing whatever campaign that I ran on my own, with the support of my grassroots, my family and friends, because I was told by somebody that if I don't take Baker money, I will never win.
Can I say a couple things?
Yes.
This is awesome. So first off, I would like to go back to something you said earlier about the grassroots and how the people are looking at the party different in Massachusetts. And I know you said to me, just when you were out campaigning, you could see it too. And I think we talk about this week after week, and I think a lot of people are probably gonna get sick about it because they're like, Justin keeps picking on the Republicans. I'm not picking on the Republicans, but we
No.
have to do better. We want to win, we have to do better, and we're not doing it. And we know because we're grassroots. We're hearing from the people, right? And the other thing I want to touch on is you talked about the Baker money. So after Jeff Deal lost, and this is one of those things that bugged me. After Jeff Deal lost, there were and a lot of blame went to Jim Lyons, and maybe rightly so. He has some blame because obviously when you're in a position of power, you're going to get some of the blame, right?
Right.
And a lot of people were doing that, Sunday morning quarterbacking,
Ugh.
and they were like, "Oh, if so and so, or if this and that, right?" And they were like, "Oh, if we would have got Dowdy, we would have won." And Baker's like the kingmaker, and I'm like, really? Because everyone that Baker supported that wasn't an incumbent lost.
They lost.
They lost. Everyone
lost.
lost. It doesn't matter if Baker supported you or Jim Lyons supported you. And I think the two sides are trying to say, hey, we're the better side. Hey, we're the better side. And what the
Right.
average everyday person is like, there is no better side. You guys
Right.
are fighting at the top, and us in the bottom want to be
That's
represented.
That's right.
And that's what
Well
I
said.
think. That's what I think, Maria. The reason why you started this off, it was like I said, the shot around the world, as Jimmy says, right? Is because when the people had a voice, they picked the person they wanted to represent them, which was you,
Yeah.
right? They had all these letters going out to people. Pick this. We endorse this person, and those people screw you. We don't care who you endorse anymore.
Right.
We want someone that will fight for us. And until people in this state and politicians understand that people are changing, people have access to
Exactly.
information,
Yes.
we're going to keep losing.
We talked about that when I first met you.
Yeah,
And we saw that. We saw that the voters were different.
all the time.
And we were, the establishment just did the same thing. And they didn't have a good strategy because they weren't listening to the voters. And once you get in for a long time, my opponent was saying, I got the longest winning in
Yeah.
Massachusetts, and I'm like, for yourself.
Yes, yes.
You're winning for yourself. Like, no, seriously, because and then like you said, 2022, how many seats do we have? How many did we lose? We had a lot of great candidates. It's like they boycotted us. It's like the election never happened.
Yep.
Here you are out doing your work, I'm doing our work, and we're like, okay, and then it's like voter suppression.
Yeah.
They completely said, we're going to have nothing to do with this.
And
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head too when you said it was not only an election for you but also the Republicans in your district. And I felt the same.
Absolutely.
I felt the same way this past weekend when Aaron won his caucus. I'm like, not only is it a win for him, but it's a win for all the Republicans in that caucus that voted for him. Because, as I've mentioned before, it's like I was helping out with Mike Volcano's campaign, and as we got into it, we realized that half of the RTCs in his district weren't even organized. So even though he was in a competitive district as a candidate, he didn't have a chance because once he got out there was no support to help him win. He was doing the job of the state committee
That's right.
as he
Yes.
was running at the same time, and it's impossible to do all those things by yourself. You need
Right.
help, you need support, and that's where I think the state committee really comes in, is to help grow it from the grassroots, from the
Absolutely.
ground up, and that's why I think that entire district is just going to be in a much better place with these recent caucus results.
And my district is considerably conservative.
Yes.
We always hear within the political world that, I used to hear from people, well, if you support Trump, you're never going to win in Massachusetts. If you're this, if you're that, that's just chatter to me. Because when you get out there and you talk to the people, they're not thinking about Trump. They're not thinking about this. They're thinking about where they live and how it's affecting their family.
Yep.
And this division that's being caused is I believe is from the establishment, because we would have had so many more seats. We would have been supporting candidates, and I hear this word unity, and it kind of hits me wrong, because if they wanted to unify with us, they would have reached out to us. She would have reached out to me and said, wow, in 2020, she did good. She'd make a good Republican state committee woman.
Yeah.
No, they ran somebody against me instead. So, I mean, the writing is on the wall, and this is the message that people need to know. that we're not bashing Republicans.
No.
They're bashing us.
And that's a great point too. I just want to highlight this because both of you ran in very competitive districts, and
Yes.
both got like in at least in the mid to high 40 percentage
Yes.
points.
Yeah.
And the reason that you weren't brought across the finish line in those races wasn't because you needed to be more moderate. The reason was because there was no resources. There was really no help within the party
That's
help you
absolutely
get your
right.
message out and to
Yeah.
like get you in front of voters. And that was the biggest thing. It had nothing to do with like what you're being more moderate or not. It was
No.
like
Everybody was focusing it on it's you because you're pro-life, or it's because of this, or
Correct.
that wasn't the issue.
No.
That was not the issue.
Look at Justin's race. I don't know the financials behind yours, but his opponent spent 55 grand, where I think you might not have even spent 5 on your race.
Yeah,
You
maybe
got-
7.
I
Yeah.
spent 11 to 1. And
Well, when I ran for state senate, I spent $495 of my own money.
and got what 46% of the vote, right?
Yeah, and I got some money from donations for my event, but that's going to stay there, and if we decide to do something else.
Good.
But yeah, everybody's saying you need a lot of money. I had somebody, I won't say the name, maybe if they watch it, they'll know who they are, told me if I don't have $200,000,
Oh.
I won't beat Baker. I mean,
Yeah.
Chico, and I need to go to Baker and ask for it. So
Well,
they
this-
basically wanted me to grovel to Baker
Yeah.
and say, I need $200,000, which I don't understand. And I was approached by that person at the caucus, and he goes, what did you have, $15 in your account?
Yeah.
I said, no, $495.
Well, this is a really good place to transition because that kind of lends itself into the old way of thinking and the new way of thinking. And I think
Right.
you and I, and even Jimmy during this process, started realizing that there's a lot of people that in their mind is a formula to win, and like, I know how to win. In order
Right.
to win, you need 200,000, you need
Yeah.
16 mailers, and you're sitting there and like, are you on crack? And then you talk to people. I'm sorry for saying you are crack, but then you talk to people, and everything that we do, they hate. Like, I hate your mailers. I hate getting the phone call. Like, everyone's in a different place, and we have to come to that and figure out different ways of doing it and to engage people and do things differently. And I don't think a lot of people understand the importance of a state committee, man or woman. I didn't, because I
Right.
never met mine when I ran. But now that I run and I see that, hey, if a state committee person actually went out and built RTCs and reached out to candidates and said, think about this and set things up, like, we'll have this channel so you can be like, hey, listen, get on this show, the Justin Thurber Show, get over here, these are a good place to go on the radio, the TV, whatever it is. As I told Jim, and it's probably the same thing when you start running for an office, and this is for everyone that ever wants to run for office, right? It's going to be like drinking out of a fire hose. But there's people that have done it before. And again, like, they either don't want to help you or they don't want to help you the right way. And I think what we have to do is we have to help people the right way, get them better resources, get them on their feet quicker so they don't have to worry about $200,000. What they can sit there is like, how do I
If you're
reach
spending
people?
200, I mean, I guess President of the United States, right?
Hundreds of
Or
millions. Yeah.
maybe the governor, but
Yeah.
on the local level, really. And it's funny that you say new ways. I mean, this is a great way to interact with people.
Yeah.
We're in a digital world. People are more on their phones and computers and alternative media more now than ever.
Yes.
So that's a great way to reach out people. I can remember I hated the robocalls too. I'm like, And of course, if I got a mailer, I'd be like, another one, and just thought about how much of a waste of money that was.
Yep. Yeah.
And just really getting out to the people is so important.
And the other thing too is I think sometimes like some of the offerings that are offered are like these copy and paste, no thought goes into it.
Yes.
You get this thing and you're like, this looks just like my opponent's, except theirs is blue and mine is red.
Right.
Like, so one thing that Jimmy and I worked on is work to get to know the people, and every town is different, right? So I was running for a state rep. I had 4 towns. I found out what the big issues in all those towns were, and I tried presenting solutions. I spoke to them, in the town, and it was specific to the towns. And when I sent mailers, I sent them to the towns with their specific needs, not a general, hey, your taxes are too high. Democrats want to do this to you. No, no. Like, listen, your water sucks. You're concerned
Yeah.
about your school is falling apart. There are issues that we can help and we need to talk about. But it seems like state politicians want to talk about statewide, state level politics and not the, backyard, down home, where you live,
Right.
politics and what's going on and what needs to be taken care of. So I'm hoping we change that. Like we need to be the difference. We need to change. We need to show people we're different because everyone, oh my gosh, I see it. Like you see all these cards. I'm different. I'm bringing unique
I know.
and innovative thinking. And what's your unique and innovative thinking? The same thing we've always done, except I'll be different. And it never happens. So
Right.
that's a kind of a rant. Sorry.
Right. And the funny thing of it is the old way isn't going to work anymore.
Yes.
I mean, it's not. And that's why we really do have to, I think as leaders now, us as leaders in getting involved, we need to show them a way that works.
Yeah.
And being with grassroots really does work. And that's how usually they start off, but then they become the establishment. And like I said, me and you were boots on the ground. We
Yep.
talked to people, and that was the most important thing. That was the most
Yes.
important thing. And just having enough time to be able to do that when you have a big district, it can be challenging, right?
Okay, well, I think that's what we're going to have to figure out next time is, like you said, the size of districts, the getting out there. I don't think politics is going to be like a 6-month thing, but being longer than that too, it gets long in the tooth because I know a lot of people that are out knocking on doors for 11 months. They were ginning up people in support for 9 months, and you can see towards the end those people burnt out. So we have to
Yeah.
we have to think of better and creative ways to keep the momentum going, keep it building without
I agree.
burning people out, and also getting your word out in different ways. And again, we're gonna try a bunch of different things, and the biggest thing that I think we have to be is ourselves. And I
I
love that you say
totally
you don't.
agree with that.
Yeah, you don't want to be a politician. I
No.
don't want to be a politician, but I'm gonna fight like hell for my kids. So that's why
I want
do
to
this.
be a voice
Yes.
for our people. I don't want to be considered a politician. I never wanted to be that. I never even wanted to get involved. And the first time around, I was like, ah. Then I did it again. I'm like, what are you, nuts? You can do this again? And I'm like, that change isn't coming.
Yep.
So I kept going, and they know I'm not, now they know, ooh, she doesn't give up. She's not
Yep.
going anywhere.
Yep.
Because it's for our state, it's for our people, it's for our kids, it's for our grandkids.
Yep.
We're in a really scary place in this world right now. And Massachusetts is losing people like crazy.
Yeah.
The liberal agenda is taking over. And, the establishment is not thinking about the people. And I want to build a grassroots and candidates from the grassroots. I don't want to be picking from their pool anymore. Because
Nope.
that's what they do. They pick from their own pool. They groom you. They want to control you. You won't be, once you've been groomed by them, you lose your voice. You have to do what they're told, right?
Yep.
We don't want that anymore. I want people, if they don't like me, to say, well, I don't like that you did this, or you don't like this policy. We need a healthy debate. I think I was talking to
Oh,
you on
yeah.
the phone, and I said, I already did high school. Like, I don't want to do it again. And when you watch these people, you're like, come on, we're adults. We can get through this. We can debate this stuff.
You would
You
hope
know?
so, right?
We should
We got
also.
Jim anything?
But you know what? Maybe if we start the ball rolling, people will get excited about it.
Yep.
Well, yeah, you just the thing that resonated with me as we keep talking about these new ways of doing things, and that's exactly what we need to do. And we talk about it a lot. Like, we looked at different campaigns and just seeing how they're spending their money, even the ones that were well funded, and you start looking behind the scenes, and they're paying 40-50 grand to shoot like a TV commercial, and we're looking at it and we're like, if we just bought a budget a cheap camera, we could put together a lot of our own stuff. It might not be the best, it might not match the same quality, but we're not spending 50 grand to create it either. You can put together some pretty
Exactly.
professional looking stuff for not that much money. And if we put our forces together and we start to collaborate on doing different types of commercials or different type of media, whether it's a digital flyer, putting out a video for a holiday or anything like that. It's like by combining our resources and our people together, it's like we can reinvent the wheel and achieve a lot more by working together than each person individually doing their own thing.
Yeah, I think that's really what people want to see these days from your discussions. They want to see that you can work with other people, you can cross the lines, and you're just a real person. People want a real person. One of the biggest things that people said on the campaign trail for me was, "Listen, I can just tell Justin you're a real person," and that's what I want. And we talk about doing this for kids and grandkids. This is kind of where I get a little. I don't want to say upset, right? But I have this discussion with a lot of people because there's a lot of people in the political realm. There's a lot of people that want certain things that aren't in the political realm, and they're all on you and stuff. And I said, listen, at the end of the day, why are you in this? And like, it's about my kids. And I'm like, well, if you're not willing to give up some of these grudges you have against people, if you're not willing to give up that you always have to be right or that person's always wrong, then don't sit here and tell me it's about your kids, because from what I understand, if you're a good parent and you would do anything for your kids, you're willing to lay down your life. Most parents are like, I would lay down my life for my kid.
Right.
But then you can't even deal with a person you don't like for 10 minutes.
Right.
Once every 2 years. Oh, I can't stand that person. It makes no sense. It boggles my mind.
Well, nobody's going to like everything about everybody, right?
Yes. Right. And again, I think that's the biggest thing is like you said, we have to have those discussions. And I don't think a lot of politicians want to have those discussions because they like having us divided.
Yes.
They like having us in little areas they can keep us. And I know I got these people votes. I know I have these people's votes.
Yeah.
And I could tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, the only thing that's changed in my 40-something years of life is everything's in high definition now.
Yep.
Right? There's still the kids in Africa that need money, right? They're still poor. We could help them out. There's grandma, grandpa still need their medicine and they're struggling, right? There's still homeless people. There's still poor people. Like there's the roads are going to be fixed. They've been fixed my whole life, right? But when are we going to hold these politicians accountable and say, enough? You make these promises to get things fixed. They're not getting fixed. Enough with you. We want these people who are at least willing to say, we're not right. We don't have all the answers, and we're willing to work to get those answers.
I agree with you, Justin. And
Good.
To add on to that, I think that at this point, we're at, like, I use this phrase just because it's what I see it as is like we're at ground zero, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a party right now. We really don't. I mean, the party has been destroyed. So now it's our time as people and voters to say, we can do this. Let's build it.
Yeah.
And it's funny when we text, I said, if they build it, they will come, remember?
Yep. Well, that's
build the dreams. But that's why, this is why I'm so excited about this, because we really can engage people. When you look at the parties that they have and the fundraisers and stuff, and the same people come.
Sure.
The same supporters come.
Sure.
You never see many new people. And then, but people want to be part of the process. People want to be part of the government. You say you're a real person. I can tell that I'm a real person. I don't want to be, divided with people that we have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
We're adults. Like I said, my opponent was pro-choice.
Yep.
I'm pro-life. I want to help women. I don't want to harm them.
Yep.
And I don't want to shame them if they're pro-choice.
Well,
It's about getting people to have that discussion and maybe help change their mind.
Yes. And again, your pro-choice opponent is in the Republican Party.
Yes, and I said to her,
Yep.
don't you think it's gone too far? Because it's gone too far. When it first started, it was not like this, right?
Yes.
Now we're to the point where they can have an abortion up to 9 months.
Yep, almost.
Yep, and then some areas are going to go, oh, what are they going to do? Oh, I don't like this one. when it comes out, you know? I mean, the the pendulum has swung so far that most people on both sides are going, "Whoa, what's on with
Yes.
government?" You know, they're like, "This is crazy." Like nobody in their right mind that has common sense would want to do that. And another thing we're not doing with women that have had abortions, we're not helping them.
No.
Because having an abortion is a huge thing. And some people have been pressured, you know, not being able to raise a baby or didn't have family or abusive relationship or poverty and felt helpless and felt that was their only goal. And when you go in for an abortion, they don't give you counseling and say, you know, are you sure this is what you want to do? You know? And I visited a pregnancy center in Attleboro. Wonderful people there. They don't force anything on anybody. You know, they have this bad label that it's all religious stuff. They're not. They're there for the women.
Yes.
They're there for the women, and if they can help them, and they even the women that choose to get the abortion, they still will support the women afterwards. So that's what we need: women helping women, because
Yes.
the women are divided too. You know, me being a conservative woman, it's not easy.
It's funny that you talk about like counseling, because I've talked to a few people, and what they actually do, it's like the opposite. It's like the first time that when the woman enters the door, when the pregnant mom enters the door, the first thing that they do is separate her from her family, because
Yeah.
they want to, you know, they treat it as like it's a profit center for them. It's like they're
Right.
looking to pad their profits with abortion money.
So they're
And
even taking the family support away from the woman that's getting the abortion.
exactly, that's the first thing that they do is separate the mom from her family, because they don't want the family talking the mom out of the decision.
Right, right. And that's, you know, nothing by coercion is good. That's not free choice. That's not informed, you know. It's almost like when we went through with the COVID, people
Yeah.
that didn't take the vax,
Yeah.
you know. Since when should our government mandate us, make us lose our jobs, our friends, our
Yeah.
families, lock us down? I mean, we're just in a really bad place right now.
Yeah, and again, I think it comes back to, and I hate to use this phrase, but the adults need to come back in the room. I know when Joe Biden was running, he's like the adults need to be in charge, and I'm still waiting for that. I'm still waiting for adults to be in charge. I always tell my wife, I go, when did I become the adult? Because I used to make a joke when I was younger. I said, I'm never gonna grow up. I'm gonna be the Toys R Us kid. But all of a sudden, I look around. I'm like, when did I become the adult? Like, why do I? And I guess it's the
Right.
role I have to play, and I long for that. Like Jim and I had a
Yeah.
show uh, the other day, and it's about the state auditor doing an audit on the House of Representatives, and she's a Democrat. And they're all up in arms at the state house, crazy. You can't audit us. Don't audit us.
Right.
He's on a power trip. But I'm like, listen, that lady and I might not agree on a lot of things, but I agree on that. And why can't I say I agree on that? And why can't I support someone for doing things that I like? And I think if you start doing that, people are like, well, you're not a real Republican, or you're not. No, yes, I am. Get out of this. You're not a real this. You're not a real that. I'm a real person, and I can understand when things are good and when things are bad and when things need to be fixed. And listen, there's a word that a lot of people don't like to use anymore. That's compromise. Something that used to happen probably in the 80s and 90s and maybe even earlier. I wasn't alive. Um, but there's no compromise now.
Right.
But you plant your flag on one end, you other person plants his flag on the other end, and they tell people pick a side. And I think people are getting sick of that. I think people are like, I don't want to pick a side. I want someone to say, hey, listen, there's some compromise we can have where I don't have to be this extreme or that extreme. And I think, like I said, that's something you and I heard a lot about.
We did. We heard that from the voters, and I would never want a candidate to compromise their beliefs.
No.
But I do understand what you mean by compromise.
Yes.
And like I said, healthy debates, we don't have that. The leaders in charge now are telling us what we need, what we want. They're not listening to the voters' voices. Candidate that is willing to do that is going to be silenced and stuffed out, and that's not a good thing.
Let me cut you off just for 1 second too,
Sure.
because we say leaders a lot, and I want to change that. Right? That's one of the things when I was running for office, I told people I wanted to change. Like for a state representative, it's in the name, represent. Right? I'm supposed to represent
Right.
you, and I think what they did, it's a smart thing. Politicians aren't always dumb, right? But what they did is they changed the wording so now they're leaders. No, you're not my leader. You're my employee.
Okay, yeah,
I am your employer,
yes.
right?
Good
And I think
point.
that's where they got it twisted,
Yeah,
right? We vote for you to do our bidding,
yeah,
not the other way around. And I think what one of the things that over the coming years with this channel, I think hope Jimmy and I and our guests come on and we start really changing that narrative, because we really need to change that narrative. Because I know for a fact, Maria, you're going to work for the people. If you were elected to the state senator, you would have worked for the people. I told
absolutely.
people if I got elected and I went to the state house and they're like, Justin, you're going to do this, this, and this, I'd be like, well, yeah, my constituents agree with all this except this one, so I'm not doing that one,
Right,
right?
right,
That's
right.
what it's supposed to be,
That's the way it's supposed to be, absolutely.
right? So we need to get back to that, and what we really need is, unfortunately, Massachusetts is kind of a uniparty right now, and we're hoping to change
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
But how we're really going to change that and how we're really going to win is if we get people that are elected that listen to their people. I used to tell people, they go, Justin, if you go up to the state house and you win and you don't listen to everything those Republicans do, right, or what they want you to do, they're going to run someone against you to get you out of that position. And you know what I used to tell those people? Go ahead.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. I go, do you think that if you ran someone against a candidate who was doing what the people wanted, that candidate would lose? They'd be like, dude, this is the first person that's listening to us ever.
And it's an interesting time right now because there's
Yes.
so much out there in the cyber world now with a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
But we are at a different time. And if
Yes.
you're not paying attention, then you're going
Yes.
to be left behind because the vote, like I said, the voters want to be heard.
Yes.
And the cool thing about that too is it doesn't apply just to state level politics too. And I
Right.
think that's a great piece of the state committee woman piece as well, is that you'll also be involved in helping out the local candidates too and
Right.
help filling those. Because
Yeah.
in my town, for example, they're putting up this this new housing project, like literally right smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood. And they had a meeting on it, a zoning meeting on it a few days ago, and literally almost every single resident of that community showed up to town meeting and said, we're not supportive of this new project going up in our backyard. And there was maybe one, maybe two people that showed up in support of it, and they were like, oh, we need this new project so these imaginary people can live there. And it's like, well, where are the people? They didn't show up with you to the meeting, so there's no, so you had 100 people from this housing development that are against this. You have
Oh, we lost you. I got him back.
the board, the select board, was still wanting to move forward with the project. So it's the people in the community were clearly not being represented, and I think a few of them actually decided to run for office on that issue alone. And that's a great opportunity, I think.
Absolutely. That's
recruit
when you
people.
have to, yeah, that's
Yeah.
when people jump in. And that's really important because I know here in my town, there's things going on that people aren't happy with. And I know there was a time, I don't know if it was a couple months ago, maybe longer, but the city council had voted to get rid of public input. And I went, what? Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? And then I
Not only do they not act on it when the public gives input, but then now they realize that, so now they want to get rid of it completely.
I'm like, yeah, because they don't want to be faced with the challenges.
Right.
Yeah.
And we know that like they're going to be angry people, and we're not going to be able to do everything for everybody, right?
No.
Censorship is easier than having a good faith debate with someone.
And all these people that demand stuff and get angry, you have to say, listen, then run, and then you'll find out what it's like.
Right.
Because in our party, and what I'm seeing and have experienced is that you call it the uniparty.
Yep.
I feel we've been infiltrated. People say we're bashing Republicans. We've been infiltrated because a lot of these people would not be doing what they're doing. I mean, I would hope not. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Sometimes I think what it is too is sometimes I think they are conservative, maybe Republican. They just want it to be different, right? I think a lot of maybe that's another thing. A lot of candidates want the Republican Party to be what they want it to be, so they're trying to craft it around what they want it to be and see if that works. And I think some of them, it's funny because I think every politician. I hope you agree with me on this. You might not. I think every politician wants to win, and I think what they do is they look at the path that they think is the best chance for them to win, right? So I think sometimes these politicians, what they do is they're like, well, I'm in Massachusetts, I believe it's liberal, I believe in all these things are like no go with most of my constituents, and I want their votes. So what I'll do is I'll be for all these things. And I don't know if it's true or not, or they're just doing the path of least resistance just to get elected. But it's not a good look because
No.
people see that through that really quick. So
yeah, and they hold them accountable because if you
Yes.
make all these false promises, that's one thing I'm not good at, like the
Mm.
politician thing. Like if I'm going to have a platform, I mean it. Like
Yeah.
I mean it. People over politics was one local politician. I
Yep.
mean it. Like
Yeah.
really, I mean it. And if it got to a point where it was going sounded the wrong direction and I was not being heard, that I would make that public because at this point I've heard people, be threatened that if they don't vote a certain way that they won't have their bill passed.
Yeah.
I've heard that's not how it works. Like that, we're talking about reaching across the aisle or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, or threatening who you're going to vote for. That's not how it works. That's bullying tactics, and you're taking the person's vote away, which is really sacred. I mean, really think about it. And then, these establishment get in, and then they pick their candidates, and then they tell you who to vote for. I mean, I've always been, my vote means everything to me, and just
Yes.
because, you told me to vote for, I'm still going to research the candidate. So people need to start getting involved in researching the candidates, and keep in mind that, the propaganda, I mean, really is out there. They're going to sell you.
Yep. Oh,
They're
yeah.
like car salesman. Yeah, this is going to be a really great car, and then a week later it breaks down. It's just like, I told you I'm going to do this, and I had talked to one politician about property taxes, and they're like, oh, everybody does it. I said,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you don't. And so they're pushing their own agenda. And I want to go back to the uniparty thing too,
Yep.
is that we do have one party.
Yeah.
So it's them against us.
Yeah.
So not only are we trying to beat the Democrats, we're trying to beat the Republicans that are in bed with the Democrats.
Well,
Yeah,
let-
you talk about infiltration, and there's plenty of evidence there. Whether you're talking about the part of the state committee boycotting their jobs, representing
Yeah.
their district for a year, whether you talk about donating to people of the candidates of the other party running against Republicans, or what's one of the most horrifying ones I've heard is there's a state committee woman that says if there's an incumbent Democrat, they don't challenge incumbent Democrats in their district. It's the unwritten rule. And to me, when you have a legislature that's like 90% Democrat, and you're not challenging incumbent Democrats, when Republicans are right in this last election cycle, only a third of the races went contested, 66% of them went uncontested. Like, how can you not call that infiltration? How can you not call that controlled
Right,
opposition
right.
when you're not going against incumbent Democrats?
Thank you for articulating that, because I didn't want to run with that in the wrong way.
well, let me also give a shameless plug because we filmed part of our show the other day and we uploaded some of it tonight. And again, it was getting back to that state auditor that I talked about, and there was a woman on it from a nonprofit organization, and basically was saying that there's 2 or 3 people in Massachusetts that make all the rules, and that's not how it should be. And all these backdoor deals that happen, and it's very interesting. We discussed it, so if people want to see it. It's a very interesting discussion that we had about that, but it's one of those things that people have to realize. That people have to realize that if we don't hold politicians to account, what they're going to do is eventually not pay attention to you, and then 2 or 3 people with all the power to give committees and to give offices and special things to, those are the people that are going to be like, this is passed, that's passed. and our voices aren't heard. And again, unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to pay attention to politics all the time. They don't, right? It's not glamorous. There's a lot of names that change. There's a lot of people you like or don't like or whatever, and I can understand, right? But you have to be somewhat engaged because it affects your everyday life, and it's not making it better. I tell people, I go, politics makes everything worse. It makes everything worse. I don't see one thing that politics makes better. It made sports worse. It made it was making the military worse
Oh
now.
my
And as a
God,
former
yes.
military guy, so you just sit there. Everything it touches, it makes worse. We should want politics to be limited in scope and reach,
Absolutely.
and it's definitely going the opposite direction. But it's
Right.
because people aren't paying attention. So my hope is over the next couple of years, more people get engaged, and it doesn't have to be much. I think a lot of people think they're going to be doing what you or I do, spending countless hours doing stuff. No, it's going to a
No.
fundraiser every once in a while. It's going
Yeah.
to a standout. It's telling
It's
somebody,
going
hey,
to vote.
yeah, go to vote, or say, hey, Maria Collins is great, and then going around just telling your friends like, hey, she's great. Even that word of mouth will do a lot of things.
It
It
does.
doesn't take much,
It
right?
does.
But
Yeah. And it's all numbers. So,
yes,
it's a numbers game. So getting to as many people as you can.
yeah,
And as far as the people, the few people in charge, that's something that we really need to look into.
yeah,
Because if the voters were aware of that, they're like, wow. Because oftentimes they're like, we're voting in the same people over and over. Why are we getting the same people? And people are wanting change, but
Yep.
then the same people. So there's something there because these people are not saying, okay, I'm just going to vote for the same person again.
yeah.
It's not happening. So now we have to look at another aspect of maybe cheating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I also think, because I've thought about this for years too, I think another piece could be is everyone thinks every other person's politician is horrible except theirs.
Right.
It's just one of those weird things. Like, I vote for my guy. It's
Yeah.
everyone else's guys that sucks,
Yeah.
not mine, right? It's MTG down in Georgia. It's DeSantis in Florida, or it's whoever.
Right.
There's all these.
Right.
But again, it's a great thing that politicians do. Politicians have learned to be like cockroaches, to survive anything, and they put things in place, and they put things in people's minds. These little things like, "Hey, listen, I'm the good guy. It's the other person that's the problem."
Right.
And then they just keep getting voted in because no one knows any better, or they don't do much more thought about it.
Right. And that's part of the party's problem.
Yeah,
That's something that has to change and be addressed because you can't have somebody at the top make all the decisions for the candidates.
yeah,
Because they may run a candidate that they think can win, but I may like this person and said that person can win.
right. Like you. That's our point. Great job.
Why are you telling me this person? But I like this one.
Right. That's what just happened.
And
That's
this
why
is
we love it.
that's why primaries are sometimes good because, people get mad, are you going to primary a Republican? Well, yeah, I'm gonna, because I'm not liking the direction or something came up. I said, challenge is good, keeps
Yes.
us on our toes. If somebody just keeps getting in over and over, look at Nancy Pelosi, my God,
Yeah.
how long has she been there? And how effective is she for the people? She's not, and I don't want to be this lifelong politician.
Sure.
My goal was to get in there and bring in people that want to run. And a lot of people, the way politics are going right now, is a very scary time to get involved.
Yes.
And worse than it's ever been. Look what they're doing to Trump. I mean,
Yep.
whether you like Trump or not, I mean, next is us.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Well, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I like where you're going because I was kind of asking you to close it up on our thing right here about, what are your plans going forward? What are your expectations? What things you'd like to see in the capacity you are as a state committee woman? Now, if you could just give us some idea of what you kind of want to do, your long-term plans. It seems like I said you probably just want to get it going and hand it off and hope you made a difference. So I'll let you. I don't want to give you words. So.
Well, no. My vision
Yep.
is to bring in the unenrolled. I don't want to call them independents because
Correct.
that's a completely different party. I tend to use that word, and it's not the right word. So when I was campaigning, we talked to a lot of unenrolls, and like I said, upset with both parties. So we need to give them a reason to come back or come into this party because they lean conservative. They don't like this crazy stuff. You know, when you're on the campaign trail and they say, well, are you a social Republican or are you this Republican? No, I'm just me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll talk to anybody about their beliefs. They can know mine. But we have to make a party that's inviting, and we don't have it right now.
Yes.
So many people that are like, I'm done with that Republican Party. And what we need to change is the narrative. We start a new narrative because people do vote. It's so true, though, right?
It is.
Like
I told-
we've been brainwashed to think, oh, they're right. These
Yeah.
politicians, like, well, you don't understand. People aren't going to vote. I'm like, how do you know that?
There's 2 points I want to bring up real quick. Is
Yeah.
one, yes, I forget. Someone said it this past election cycle, but there's like Republicans win every single election on election day, and the point of that is that because a lot of the a lot of the early voting is done by the Democrat Party, but the unenrolled
Right.
and the Republican, well, the unenrolled, like for the most part, are the ones that show up on election day, and they
Yeah.
tend to vote more for the conservative candidate than they do for the
Right.
Democrat side.
Right.
And then in almost every single district that we look at, I looked at my town, Justin looked at his town, we had 33% of the primary vote in our towns were registered Republicans. 66% of them were the unenrolled. So that goes to show you that there's more conservatives hiding out in the unenrolled than there are within the actual Republican
And they're
Party.
waiting for us to bring them in. That's how I feel.
Exactly.
Because
I
they don't
agree.
come through the party. So we, like I said, we have to rebrand this. And we have to give them, it kind of reminds me of Catholics Come Home, you know, when the Catholic Church was trying to get people
Yep.
back.
Well, it's so funny because I want Jim to back me up on this, and don't just back me up because we do the show, Jim. But I've been saying that for almost the whole time. And again, a lot of people aren't going to be happy with me, but I'm like, we're not good at it. Like, Republicans aren't good at messaging. We're not good at taking on the topics that they use as cudgels to beat us with all the time. And they're easy to come back with. They really are. We just don't have. I just think what happens, we do a lot of avoidance, which they love, because avoidance isn't answering a question into the average person. They're like, well, this
They're
person.
looking to gaslight us too
Yes.
and get us to react.
Yes, and get us to react. And I say what we have to do, and again, part of the plan long term, I'm not going to ruin it for us, is to have
Yeah,
the things
don't
to
give
say.
everything away.
No. But we're just going to be better, right? And we're going to do it
Right.
different. I'm not going to be the old politician, the 200,000. If they bring this up, you avoid. Like, for example, I was on a radio show, and I guess a Republican prior to me went on it like a week earlier, and they asked, "Did you vote for Trump?" And boy, he spent 10 minutes to not say yes. Oh, my vote is my vote, and I like to keep it in private. And I'm like, so. And again, that's your choice. Everyone has their choice. I went on, and the guy goes, "Did you vote for Trump?" Because it's one of those trap questions. I'm like, "Ooh, I'm going to make you look bad," and I'm like.
Yeah. And the
Well-
pro-life question is a trap too.
Yeah, I go like this. I'm like, well, I am a Republican, and he was the Republican candidate. So who else would I have voted for? I mean,
Right.
but again, now you flip it back on them. Like all these people trying to like, oh, they're gonna get me. And there is calculus, right? As a politician, there's the calculus because sometimes you can slip up and say things you don't mean or don't want to say,
Right.
Or they're gonna attach you to certain things, but there's also stupid things we just aren't smart enough to counter that. So, and it ended that quick because like, oh, who was I going to vote for? I wasn't going to vote for the Democrat. I'm a Republican.
Right.
And then
Well,
it's like,
it's funny because I had the same kind of experience at one of the meetings that I went to, and it came up as a pro-life, pro-choice question to the candidates, me and my opponent. And they use the word pro-abortion because that's how they feel how far it's gone.
wow, yeah,
You know, it's not choice anymore. I mean, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
So one of the persons got really upset by being called pro-abortion, and the person that asked and he stood up, did all this thing, and said, "I'm a rhino," blah blah blah. And you know, we're living with labels. The labels need to go. Like pro-life has a bad rap, and it shouldn't, because we're not going around, you know, kidnapping women so they won't get an abortion.
Yes.
You know, we're not like some people are Christians. I'm a Christian,
Yep.
but we're not these little religious freaks that are going to shame the women and stuff.
No.
But you know, he said to one of the people said, "Well, who are you going to vote for, Healy?" So this is what they do.
Yeah.
You get
Yep.
a Baker, and you get a Healy. They do it by design.
Yep.
So we don't have a choice. This is what we need to change in the party. We get the candidates where they actually have a choice.
Yes.
You know, we have to know who these candidates are. We had some great candidates that should have won. Jay McMahon. You know, I mean, when you meet that guy and you listen to him, I mean, he just was a great candidate.
Yeah.
And another thing is, you know, our own Republicans are coming after us.
Yeah.
And I said, whoa. And I was surprised by that. When I first got into this, you know, you think it's like, oh, we're all Republicans. Yay. We're going to work together. And then I was like, whoa, what's going on? But the Democrats always stick together. That's the
Well,
thing.
before the show, most Republicans worked with me. I think after this show, some.
No, I disagree. I think, you know what? If they don't want to work
Yep.
with you, then they're not facing the real problems that
Yeah.
we're facing,
Yep.
and they don't want to fix the issue.
I
And
agree.
you can be a Republican and have different opinions, but you can't be working against conservatives anymore because conservatives have had it. I've had it. The people that came and voted for me have had it. They want their voice heard. Their
Yes.
vote matters just as much, and their voice matters much. We have free speech in America. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Keep
All right.
going.
So
Do you know what I'm saying, though?
I know exactly what you're saying. So, like I said, I usually love to end the shows with the video of the week, and I'm going to play the video of the week. Now, Jim hasn't seen it. I sent it to Maria, so let me just play it really quick, and then we can discuss it. It's kind of quick.
Okay.
So, you got a bunch of lions eating a water buffalo.
Oh, you're going to make me put my glasses on.
Uh-oh. And then they got to start attacking themselves.
I hope it's not a non-binary buffalo like I saw.
No,
in
it's
that
not.
ad.
Yeah, I watched this. I thought I had to do research on lions and water buffalo.
Oh,
Like, what are you talking about?
Well, it looks like they're trying to save it.
so the reason why I like that video is A, the water buffalo got away, and I think everyone, you know, they know the animal kingdom, and it doesn't always happen. But when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Then I realized the water buffalo got away because they attacked each other. And I think that's a great example of what's happening in the Republican Party. We're attacking each other, letting the Democrats get away with anything they want to do. And we have to be better, right? Like, we have to be better. I want us to do things better. And like I said, again, I'll get in trouble. I'll work with anybody that's willing to work and make things better and, you know, take the state back. One last thing I want to tell you, Maria. Evan Gendro, who was another candidate who I spoke with, and I was just at an RTC meeting. He would watch one of my earlier videos, and he's like, Justin, he's like, you said something that blew my mind. And I want to give that to you because this is something that I think we have to start telling people, because everyone I tell this to, you can see their mind just gets blown up. I think a lot of people think Massachusetts is a blue state. They're like, Massachusetts is a blue state, we can't win.
We're
I tell
purple.
people, yeah, that's what I tell people. I'm like, we're a purple state. I lost 47 to 53. I go, that's not 6 points away. That's 3 points away in one vote. And I go, and that's with the mentality of people in this state that say, I'm not voting because Republicans don't win. If that mentality wasn't there, we'd win every time. But because you have a lot of these people that don't go out to vote because they have that voter apathy, because they're sitting there like, this guy's got no shot. We're a blue state. No, we're not. I told someone that who's in my town, and she's like, I thought you got smoked. I go, no, you didn't look. She's like, no. She's like, I didn't know
Bristol
that.
County is very conservative.
Yes.
We are ripe to run some candidates and win them.
What's funny too is I don't think people realize that, like, Arizona, they take like a month, 2 months to determine their election. Massachusetts is actually no different. The thing is, the only difference was that in Massachusetts, the races weren't as close because of for obvious reasons. But like, if the races were close, if the governor's race was close in Massachusetts, we have the same procedures in Massachusetts that exist in Arizona. So if that governor's election was like a 51-49 election, we would be taking just as long to count our votes in mass. That's how long it did take us to get the official results. I mean, me and Justin saw it. We were waiting probably like a month after the election, waiting for the official results to get posted on all these towns' websites.
I was waiting for my official because I was watching it and I was ahead. And then all of a sudden, votes came in. I'm like,
yeah. Well, yeah, I think everyone experienced that across the board.
All right. Well, Maria, we loved having you on. I hope you enjoyed
I love
it.
being here. You guys are great.
Well, listen, we're definitely going to have you on in the future, and we wish you luck. And we're definitely going to work with you. We're going to work, to take back at least Bristol County, start here, and all this whole area, and just
Thank you for having me.
yes. And you have a wonderful day. And again, we're going to have you on in the future, definitely.